Welcome, everyone, to Latter Daily Digest. We had a part one with Kelby Thwaits, and we ended where he talked about moving to Los Angeles. And so today's episode is Kelby Thwaits, an LA story. So welcome, Kelby, to part two.
Hi, Kelby.
Hello. Hello
So you
again.
had mentioned couch surfing. So you had some friends that were able to put you up for a little bit. And then were you just scouting, or were you there for particular auditions? Give us a quick reminder.
So it was really coming out to Los Angeles to see if that was going to be a viable option for exploring careers in entertainment. I had a big music background as composing, performing, recording, as well as behind the scenes in like audio and video production, and then acting, of course, and performing. So I wanted to check out Los Angeles and see
Sorry,
if
I
that
want
would
to
be
jump
something
in.
that was
So
viable.
you're kind of like a jack of all trades here. Is that right? Okay, I mean, I've heard the term triple threat, and that's acting, singing, and dancing. Is there a term for what you were? Because you go way beyond that.
I mean, to me, I literally just think of it as parts of the same kind of beast. That's like the beast, a Renaissance artist or an artist. So to me, everything just sort of feeds into it or enables the creative development of artistic projects. And I just think of it as storytelling, and you're just choosing a different canvas. If you're acting, then it's like you are the canvas in a sense, and you're part of a group that's presenting something on stage. Or if it's in a film, then all of that is put together, painstakingly, piece by piece and take by take, until you have the arc of a film. Same thing with songs. Live performing is very much like I would say like performing in a band or performing live on stage musically is akin to performing live on stage theatrically in a theater setting. And then making a movie is very much like the modern recording process for a pop song. Like in making a movie, it
Mm.
takes you weeks or months to get all of these ingredients, these pieces, the different takes, the different angles, to try and create. You're fabricating something that didn't happen in real time, literally, but you're creating this storytelling. And so it just like a pop song, you would record different takes, you have different instrumentation, you might replace, like you have a temp bass part. I always play a temp bass part. And then if there's a better bassist that has a style that I really like, then I'll try and bring them in. And if not, then it's my playing that I do, right? Or maybe I'll mock up the track with some synth sounds and then replace those with live instrumentation or a mixture of that. So you're putting together a pop song. And when I say pop song, I mean the generic version of popular music, right? So
Mm.
in popular music, you would craft that. If it's not a live performance, you craft that in the studio or part by part. And a lot of artists now will do everything, or they bring in friends to fill out the different parts. And then you put together a 3 or 3.5 minute song. So the same kind of thing applies to movie making, where in general, you're not filming from start to finish in real time. That's very, very rare, like almost unheard of. And what you're doing is taking these different scenes and you've broken everything down. And so you're like, okay, here's how long we have these locations. Here's when we have the locations. Here's the actors' schedules. Let's film the end of the movie on the second day. Let's film the middle of the movie at the very end, and let's film the beginning of the movie partway through, in the middle. You're piecing all of it together, and then you edit that and create something that is meant to feel like reality, but it's all
It's like
contrived through these, all of these different takes that you've sifted through to try and compile something together. So movie making and song production, like music producing in the studio, very similar process. And then live performance, like from a band or from a musician, is the same kind of idea or same kind of arc as live theater, where you are telling a
Yeah.
story from beginning to end, even if you have flashbacks or all of that kind of exciting things that might happen within the stage production, or think of like a concert you go to for like a 2.5 hour
Mhm.
experience. You've got an arc of the songs that are built together. You have the band or the the musician or the artist who is performing in real time. So,
And no
so to me,
do-overs.
all of that stuff is the same. What was that?
No do-overs.
For
So
live.
all the
Yeah, no
practice
do-overs.
has
Oh
to
my
happen
goodness, no do-overs.
beforehand, and then you
Yeah.
just got to keep moving.
And so in
Yeah.
a way,
Yeah.
you're like building each piece of the puzzle, hoping that at some day in the future, you're going to put all the pieces together and that you didn't miss a piece and that it'll all look good as one whole picture. And I was also thinking that everybody has a job to do. So do you feel the same way as like a photo editor or a cameraman or the director or an actor? Do you feel like you're doing your part as part of the creative process in the creation of something?
Well, so my approach, and this is also what I encourage in students. So I am a professor and the director of graduate programs at a university in Los Angeles here. So the approach that I have personally is that the more that you know, you don't have to be a master of the things that you are aware of, but having an awareness of them will make you more powerful in bringing people together, in getting a cohesive project or product or artistic work. So by understanding where other departments are coming from, you will be able to collaborate better. And I just
a
think that
huge
that's a
asset.
philosophy in life. By understanding where people are coming from, you don't have to agree with them, and they might be really great. Hopefully they are better than you at whatever it is that they specialize in, because then they will bring something to the table that you couldn't have yourself. But I love learning about everything. And if I could, I would do everything, not as a control freak. I mean, I would explore what it means to be in every person's shoes, or what it means to try all of these different areas, not like as a, hey, I want to do everything and it's all mine, but rather I want to understand everything so that I can then understand where other people are coming from. So that could be the camera department, that could be in post-production, editorial, understanding what goes into editing, and what goes into post-production, because there's a ton that goes into that, and it's fascinating and exciting. So understanding where people are coming from makes you a much better leader or collaborator or bridge builder. And so I think it's a philosophy of life, as well as I think in creating art.
Makes sense. So when you were back to couch surfing in LA, you were just scoping out like all of it, and kind of for every part you were looking into music, you were looking into production. Is that right?
Yeah, the main areas that I was focusing in, that I felt like I had the most to offer professionally and the best chance at getting jobs in, was acting, music production, video production, or media production in general, as a creator, because I recorded lots of bands and choirs and orchestras, and I performed. I'm a cellist, guitar, bass, drums, keys, all of that kind of stuff. There are virtuosos in every one of those areas. I'm not claiming to be a virtuoso in those areas, but I can play in a band, for example. I could play live gigs if I needed as a bassist, or or guitar, or keys or drums or whatever. But most of my success was coming from performing as an actor and a singer on stage.
In LA, or you mean up till this point
Up
in
to
New
this
York?
point, yeah, up to this point. So I was exploring LA and the acting scene for theater, as well as television and film, and just got to know the audition circuit, and got to know the theater companies in a little bit in that 3 weeks, and a lay of the land, and also the music business. Los Angeles is exciting because it allows space for unique original music, and it values that, which is, if you think of Las Vegas is kind of, there's original music that comes out of Las Vegas. A lot of the music for hire, though, is bands or artists that are lookalikes or soundalikes, or they do tribute type acts. So imagine Los Angeles is a great space for original new music, and there are a lot of clubs out here that they don't want you to play all covers. Like, the expectation would be that you have your original music. Maybe you have a reimagined version of a cover that you've made your own, but they aren't looking for like tribute bands here in Los Angeles. So that was exciting to know that like original music and original ideas and art were of interest. And so I just kind of I came out, I assessed the situation for 3 weeks and said, you know what, I think this could really work. And I assumed I would end up settling either in New York or Los Angeles. And having done New York for a bit and how difficult that can be with family, you know, young kids. And it's like, I love that city. I feel like a part of me lives in that city by nature, and I love it there. But it is difficult with little ones. You know, it's just a lot of work, up and down stairs for the subway all the time, carrying strollers. You know, so it's not conducive to infants or
I never thought of
elderly.
that.
Or I mean, New York really functions with. It's just not a friendly city so much for anyone who has any type of ADA, like physical mobility challenges. It's not going to be so friendly. It's gotten better, but it's still tough, you know. And then
About what ages were your kids at this time, if you're comfortable saying?
Oh yeah, no, I don't mind. Very, very young. That's like
under 5.
Oh my goodness, yeah. We're talking
Toddlers
about
and infants. Okay.
infant and then just barely toddler. So it was Los Angeles just seemed like a more viable place to be able to have family life happen, you know.
And so your wife was on board too, or did she have different ideas about where to have family life?
No, she had come out to New York a couple of times, and it was hard, you know. And so definitely Los Angeles was going to be she was much more open to that.
So you were like going back home to like the Tucson area and visiting your family, and then she would come out to visit a couple of times while all this stuff was happening in New York while you were in New York?
In New York, yeah. And then if you get on a tour, you know, then it's like long distance. So it's like you're touring around. So with that, she was out to New York a couple of times. I did a New England tour, a US tour, and some like showcases there in town. But most of New York, unless you get a gig in the city, so like a long-standing Broadway show or off-Broadway show, then New York is really about getting work. The auditions all happen there so that you can get them go out of town, essentially. So you could tour or get regional theater work. So a lot of the New York life is booking a gig and then getting someone to sublet your place while you're out on tour. That's a really normal kind of an artist life there, unless you book like a Broadway show or something like that, and then you stay in the city. So yeah.
I was wondering if I could read from your mini bio on IMDb. It says,
okay.
After moving to Hollywood, he landed his first gig as a rotoscope artist in the visual effects department on Ron Howard's Academy Award nominated film Cinderella Man. So there you were in Hollywood.
Yeah. So I was in Hollywood, and I signed up for a temp agency that they took people on in a certain category that had skills that were in arts and entertainment. And I'd done a lot of just Photoshop and editing and that sort of thing. And so eFilm was looking for people to do rotoscoping on film, actual film, not digital film. So Cinderella Man is a period piece. It's a boxing movie and love story.
I'm going to need to know what rotoscoping is.
Oh, okay.
For the audience that doesn't know.
That's right. Yeah. We know what it is.
So like Renee Zellweger, Russell Crowe. So imagine as a period piece, if you need the location you shot in to look like it was from 100 years ago, you can't have cables and modern looking signage or modern looking telephone wires and that sort of thing.
Elements.
Or if there are blemishes on someone's face or in the actual film stock itself, if it has like dust fragments or things that got into the film, you have to take out those imperfections. So what I did was, as a rotoscoper, was I would go through and take things off of people's faces or clothing that were imperfections in the fabric or something like that, and then like take out cables or telephone lines or mailboxes or things that would give away the piece as being outside of the time period that it was filmed in. So you're going in digitally and removing that. And at the time, eFilm had their own software, so it wasn't something off the shelf that you could use to be able to get rid of those imperfections. They had their own proprietary stuff. So they
So
wanted
you wouldn't have
people.
to do it frame by frame by frame, or did you?
Yes, frame by frame by frame.
Wow.
So I had one reel of the movie that was my responsibility. Movies are cut into reels
like
because
7
you can't have
minutes.
the whole thing on. So yeah, so it was like it was definitely at least 12 minutes.
Was that tedious, or did you like it? Okay, I was gonna say, because that sounds.
It was tedious, and I did it in the middle of the night. So I did the graveyard shift for my reel, and you go into this. So there's no light because you have to be able to see the imperfections. You can't have any happiness coming
External.
into this room. It has to be totally closed out. It's a dark cave. Your eyes adjust. So you're doing this in the middle of the night, and you're working inside this completely like isolated dark area, and you're trying to take out frame by frame all of these imperfections. When you go out in the middle of the night to the street lights, you're like, oh, it's so bright. It's that dark.
Wow.
It's crazy. And we used to play hacky sack in between, like on breaks, just to keep ourselves from going nuts.
Did you develop a coffee or energy drink addiction at that time?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I think I was still running on like excitement and enthusiasm,
high on life.
Good.
Yeah. No, I didn't have any kind of a substance boost habit at the time.
So then
was
when the movie came out, did you take people and say, hey, my 12 minutes are coming up here, everybody watch?
No, in fact, I, up until very recently, hadn't seen the whole movie all the way through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I nothing against the movie. Like I know that it was well received and everything, but like I was living with a portion of it so long. And I was always also like, what is my next gig? Because it's like, and I was more like, what are my next 5 gigs so that I can survive, and be able to like build up enough savings to be able to like get a larger place and bring the family out. So it was really just like I was living on like, okay, you always have to be setting up what are my next gigs going to be. So it's
right. And I suppose for all of Hollywood, there you do a movie and it might not even come out for like 18 months or 2 years, and you've lived a whole life after that, I suppose, after working on it.
Yeah, I would say in general, yes, because of where I came in the process, which was towards the very end. The movie was released. It was very close to the release time. It was within weeks of the release itself that I was doing that stuff. It was final removals and polishes within weeks, maybe meaning like, I don't know, a month and a half or 2 months before it came out. It was, in movie terms, it was very close to the release of the film that I was working on that. I was just so set on what is my next thing? Where am I going?
Yeah.
There wasn't any, I mean, I guess I just sort of assumed the movie would be fine. I wasn't contemplating, is this going to be a big break or not? It was just work.
Yeah. I would have flown my family in.
for 12 minutes of editing.
Yeah. Look at that. There used to be a wire there and I eliminated it.
Yeah.
I know. It's unglam. It's totally necessary, especially with film stock itself, not just digital. With digital, I mean, we have so few imperfections, that you're trying to get rid of. And so now you can get rid of those with AI assisted tracking tools. Oh my goodness. It's so much easier.
Yeah. So what was the next big event or change for you out there? Did you bring the family in, or is this where your faith deconstruction started, or did something else happen that kind of, where's the next shift in the timeline?
I would say, so the faith deconstruction, I think, started from the time I was 6. And then it was, where I didn't feel like I could be a part of that, of the church, as I was finishing up in Tucson. So that's soon after
Okay,
getting
that's right.
married, and so then going to New York, finding other artists was helpful to see, okay, there are some people that are more rational and also nuanced in the way that they approach their beliefs and that just have it personal. And then knowing that there were such like really unfortunate, ugly historical things that were being swept under the rug by the church and all of that. And I
Right.
and
And
I
and
especially couldn't be part of it.
all your new friends, that's the same ratio of good and bad people, right? There's still, for every 100 people, there's 95 really, really good people, and 5 people you just have to figure out to, give
Oh
put some
yeah.
distance.
I had so many friends that were not a part of like the Mormon church or possibly any church. They weren't particularly religious, that were just genuinely great people. I was like, that didn't track with me, that like only Mormons were the chosen ones, and that kind of thing. Because I was just like, there are some real assholes that are, Mormon. So I was just like, that makes no sense. That's just not only illogical. It just I didn't see any way that was true. And so I just was like, you know what? I am just going to kind of have my own beliefs and thoughts. But when you're in that community, both with family and the expectations around it, there is a version, even if you don't think you're trapped, you're somewhat trapped out of
Mhm.
expectation and familial expectation. So it's just cultural. And I've had a lot of friends who grew up in Catholicism that had a similar kind of a thing. There's expectation with the family, even if they weren't strict in their adherence
Yeah,
to Catholicism. And I have I don't have anything personally against Catholicism. It was just an observation that there were similarities in people just it was
and
much healthier to
showing up.
adopt your own viewpoint,
Yeah,
your own way of living, and not be so strict or stringent on, because the beliefs, if you look back in history on any
yeah,
religion that has survived, there's just unfortunate treatment of
right.
people, you know.
And a lot of
Uh,
change along the way. Yeah.
yeah, change
Okay.
out of necessity in order for it to be viable, or in order for it to be a healthier. So in a lot of ways, I think Catholicism has the benefit of having gone so many centuries and adapting and morphing into something that's going to be more supportive of people. The university I work at
Yeah.
it has a Catholic base, which is actually really exciting, and they're super progressive in their approach to deity, or to and it's like open doors. Like
Okay.
I don't belong to I don't have any religious affiliation, and I haven't been run out of town there, and
Yeah.
and
They're
Okay,
they're
so faith,
modeling they're
yeah, so
modeling the big tent.
the bigger tent.
yeah.
So faith deconstruction wasn't really part of it then, or a part of whatever the next shift was for you.
No,
What was it instead?
I didn't perceive it because I was just in a survival mode and trying to figure out it's really like how to survive, make a career in the arts in some way while surviving, and then being able to provide for a family. So
Yeah.
I got a job at Universal as doing. I was a remote control video camera operator and switcher. And then I also did sound mixing for live performances in the theme park. So the remote control camera operation was great. And so as a video switcher, going through, we had like 12 different shots. 2 of those were on remote control that I could control. We had a Steadicam operator, and then some set up for Fear Factor. And so you're switching through and getting shots of all of the weird, gross stuff, and
I
exciting
remember
things.
that.
And
Yeah.
and so that was that gig I got just from applying. Like straight up, I saw an ad for it and applied, and then did some interviews, and they liked my background, and then they had me do a practical test to see if I actually like written, and as well as like had me come in and talk with some people, and then do a couple of setups, both for sound mixing as well as for video production. And then they were like, hey, we think you would be good at this, let's try you out. And so then I did that, and At the
So
same
that was
time,
more steady work,
Right. Your
yeah,
first
yeah,
more
right?
steady.
and Universal was really great at being able to have flexibility for acting and doing auditions or that sort of thing. You could sub out if you needed. So I did. I was a day player on Summerland, which was this. It was back when it was called the WB channel. It's the CW network
Oh.
now, but Summerland was and we filmed out in like on the beach. I was in this wedding, the big finale wedding episode. And General Hospital. I was a new father on General Hospital. I was a day player that where you come in
Mm.
and have a part for a day and get paid. I did that, and at the same time, I also got connected with GNet Media, and they were a really innovative, um, like a hybrid ad agency, but also that created original content. So they made TV shows for MTV, VH1, Spike TV. Worked a lot with video game companies like EA Games and Sony Online Entertainment, Bungie, and Microsoft, and then did stuff for video game franchises like Dead Space and Halo and all that kind of stuff. So some of that was voiceover work I did. Some of that was composing music. Some of that was we created original like machinima. So it's machine cinema. You're using video game technology to create a narrative story,
Mm.
Yeah.
and using uh, no well known. So it's pop culture stuff that was a lot of fun, and you have tight deadlines. You have to get stuff out. It has to be good enough to air, that sort of thing. So that really got me. I think just like working really fast. That was maybe the best thing for my creative process to get out of a perfectionist approach and into a you need to quickly get something that's going to be good enough to air to the world, to broadcast,
Within
but
a certain time schedule.
yeah, and don't be too precious about it. Make it good, and so you had to churn stuff out, or you wouldn't survive on that. And but then you also want it to be artistically interesting and novel, but have some kind of an influence. So like 80s, 1980s TV theme show songs. So like writing our own original song, but something that was to
Had the
evoke the
feel.
sentimentality of like an 80s TV show theme song. So you do some analysis and study of some of the hits, of those genres, whatever it
Yeah.
is, and then create something original, and you have kind of the storyline of whatever you're doing, and try and infuse that in there. And so that was a really fun time, fun, exciting time. And I also at the same time got in with creating music curriculum and teaching music curriculum to kids in Montessori schools, and then doing summer camps of like video game design and movie making in for like high school age kids over the summer. And it's just I don't there are so many things that you're just kind of like to think back
I'm
on it now,
jealous.
it seems like a lot, but at the
Yeah.
time it was just the next thing. It was just what I was doing, and all of these overlapped. I was acting and performing in a lot of musicals, a ton of musicals in the LA area, and it just all sort of happens simultaneously. It's the regular life of an artist, but I think to everyone else it's just utter chaos, and like, how would you ever agree to something so crazy, and
Yeah.
so
But
insecure?
while you're in it, like you just make it work. You
While
just
you're in it, it's
the
just
next
normal.
step at a time.
It's just gig life. It's just what you do. Yeah. So yeah, to talk about it to any sane person, a rational person, it's nuts. But it's just the life of an artist. It's just, it's kind of what it is. I think it's
And did
always been like that ever since the traveling minstrels. you
right.
know.
Did the camp work that you did lead to your working for a university?
It did in a sense. Let's see. Yeah, because I had developed some of those ideas for the camp. And then I was doing a commercial with someone with a friend of mine who I work with now in the university, brought him in, but I met him at church. So that was a church connection. So we were in the same ward, and getting together and doing that commercial. And he said, "Hey, I work at a university. We want to develop our media program. You've got some, you've already done some of this development and it seems interesting. And we want to bring in like a fresh take, like what's the modern approach to filmmaking, media, whatever." And he was like, "Would you consider developing a class and teaching as an adjunct, one class?" I was like, "Sure, let's do it." But the way academia works, you don't start that until like you plan your classes at least a year in advance or more. So I think it was a year and a half later that I actually ran the class,
Wow.
that, that I had agreed to before. But yeah,
Because it has to get in the catalog for the year, and it has to be on the schedule, and they have to account for it. They have to budget for it and stuff like that, I suppose.
yeah, getting into the catalog and all of that is the big, and then launching a new class and then making sure there's enrollment numbers and that it fills and all of that. So that was how I started into, and I would say that was a transition point in my life in a lot of ways, because Prop 8 in California, so that's a
Yeah.
marriage equality, for anyone who's listening who's unaware of what that is. Prop
And the
8 was a
church
huge.
campaigned heavily against it.
Yeah, the church. So that was where I was. I already was just kind of like, there are a lot of things I don't believe about this. I just want to try and find what I connected to. The only thing I connected to in Mormonism really is that at the face of it, or the way it presents itself, it's trying to look out for people and help them. And that was the only thing that I really connected with. And I was like, well, I can hold on to that. I want to help people. I just naturally want to try and see what I can do to, lift people up or inspire them or encourage them,
So
to
it
have a
didn't
better
have to
life.
be true anymore for you, as long as it was still helpful.
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, I didn't think of it in those terms directly. I just thought the only thing I can connect with in this is that it's ultimately professes to try and help people. I can try and help people, because I was in this and with so 3 kids now. So I have 3 kids, and I was like, I mean, leaving the ramifications and repercussions. I didn't want to lose connection to my kids. I didn't, all of that. And so like trying to make it work by going, okay, how can I try and find people within that are struggling with this too, and then be like a support or a connection for them. So Prop 8, that was just like, I was so not on board with the church's position. And
Yeah,
I was
I almost think that you were like we'll say a fair weather Mormon, and the weather changed.
yeah, I did not, that was like, I almost was like, I gotta leave and renounce this, but I didn't want to lose the family, and so ultimately that was really it. And I was just like, more than anything, like that was a deciding time where it was like, okay, the only version that would work for me is just trying to help people kind of in my own way inside.
Can you explain how would leaving the church cause you to lose your family,
The
or to feel like you would?
Yeah, and it was maybe feeling like it. There's that fear. Now, whether would it have actually turned out that way or not, who's to say? I don't know. To some degree, maybe, but the with a high demand, high control group, whether it's Mormon Church or anything else, it's like they own, first of all, major boundary violations of, like, they own access to, and the right or ability to question you on anything, or keep tabs on you in any way, and frame it around to, like, we're supporting those people from within.
Right, and we're
but
trying to get you back to the celestial kingdom. That's what we're trying to do.
right. We're trying to save everyone's soul and get you to VIP heaven, right? And and so, but you know, when you find out VIP heaven like requires that you live a polygamous life, and that your skin is turned white if you are any other color than white, you know, and
Mhm.
and that if you're a woman, you're basically one of many wives to a male god who
Eternal
has
baby making.
planets. Yeah, and you're an eternal baby factory. It's like that's like 100% bullshit. That's
Mhm.
not, even if that were
It sounds like
true.
a religion made up by a man,
Oh my gosh, yeah, right, totally.
Yeah.
And
a white
even if it
man.
were true, it would not be a version I would want to be a part of anyway, because that's just to me that's it's just really sour and horrific. So
So are
um,
you worried that like your wife wouldn't take it well?
for sure. And then it's you become anyone who willingly or unwillingly leaves the church has there's a stigma against, you know, because they are apostate, or they are
Mhm.
not a whatever they weren't strong
Fallen.
enough to, you know, they didn't want to be obedient in the Mormon
Weak
church.
or carnal.
Obedience above all else, like the more and high demand, high control groups, obedience is like your defining factor. Obedience despite rational thought, you know, so it's like obedience to the main leader, whether that's God or whether that's a prophet, you know, or a guru. It's like you have to give loyalty and obedience even if they ask you to do something that seems inhumane, or just to test loyalty and stuff. So
Like
that's
oppose gay marriage.
right. Oppose gay marriage, or oh man, I mean so many things. Yes, so that was not cool. So I almost left, and that was maybe the turning point for me to just be like, okay, I, as a person individually, I just am 100% going to have to just do my version of help people and then retain the family by staying within. Yeah, and I would like help out, and I would do callings and stuff like that. So I think on the surface of it, it's not like anyone would expect um anything different, you know. It was just internally all of those changes. And at the same time, there was an opening at the university for a full-time position that and I was concerned, well, I don't want to become a professor full-time and not be able to do artistic pursuits and perform, compose, and media creation. But fortunately, as part of a professorship, different from other forms of teaching, your advancement as a faculty member and your status as a faculty member is contingent upon publishing or contributing in your own area of expertise. So for me, that was it was an enabler to create new types of projects and have access to ways that I could help shape curriculum and support students and the next generation of filmmakers, or of media artists, or musicians, and then also have an opportunity to be able to develop my own things and not have to live so much of the gig lifestyle. And then I could be more selective on projects, not taking projects out of desperation for the paycheck. And I mean artistic projects, you know,
Yeah.
but like be able to choose to do projects that I thought were interesting or enriching, not just to try and pay bills. So that was a neat shift. And that also
And what year
that
was that?
coincided with the housing crisis at the same time. So that was helpful because there was the stock market and housing market especially had tanked. This was just post Prop 8. This is all
Like
kind of
2008, 2009. This was
yeah,
when I was on my mission, and I remember people would be like, "What are you gonna do when you're finished?" And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know." But yeah.
One of my temp jobs was processing. It wasn't even temp. A friend of mine got it for me. I don't think it was temp. I went in and interviewed, processing and underwriting home loans for Countrywide. So that was at
Oh man.
right as the right before the
Developers.
housing market took its tank.
So you were
Um,
the final straw on the camel's back of the housing crisis.
It was me. It must have been one too many loans that I processed that took everything down. Can you believe that? Um, yeah, what a crazy time. So that was a shift into academia, which I didn't ever fancy myself as jumping into so early in my life. I just thought I would do that much later.
Is your family in LA with you at this point, or are you still like building up for them?
Oh yeah. We're all out in LA at this point. Uh, uh, so we were all together at this point, living in the Los Angeles lifestyle. So that
Brilliant.
was great. A version of less chaotic stability, was great. Being able to focus on developing programs and ideas to build and expand at the university and to support students coming through in really innovative, exciting, creative ways. Not having to take baggage from before, from like that was grandfathered in like older ways of trying to approach media, and just doing it from a fresh slate. And so I got to do that and support with the undergrad department. And then there was a request to explore what a graduate program would look like. And so then I got to work on development of that. And then some of the defining factors that would separate our program that I felt very strongly about were to leverage connections with film studios in the area and launch the graduate program out of a film studio instead of on a university campus. And so that was really it's bringing academics into the real workplace being film production studios, and not trying to recreate a film production studio on a university campus. So it was all about immersing students in the business from the get-go. And that was really exciting, and that took off. And that was just about 10 years ago that launched the graduate programs, which was really exciting.
Wow.
And you've been there ever since then?
Yeah, I've been there, and then creating and producing and performing as well, media. So I'm performing on stage still. I have a production of The Hunchback of Notre Dame that I will be starting rehearsals for a little later this month, and I have 3 films as a producer, 3 films that are in various stages of production. We just wrapped filming on one on Friday.
Are you allowed to say the name?
Probably Good Thoughts. Written and directed by Rachel Carey, and then produced by Sherry Hefner and myself, and really great group of people. And it highlights struggles with mental illness among college age students. But it is not like a PSA or a documentary piece. It's a narrative entertainment film, drama. And so you've got like mother-daughter relationships that are dealt with. You've got peer relationships, romantic relationships, and a really beautiful, interesting, and I think very important kind of story and reality that people are living through on the day-to-day. Just as in the life of like college age, there's so much that happens for an individual in those years of independence, of like fear, of self-doubt, of all kinds of things, and trying to struggle with that and deal with that if you have different types, if you struggle with mental illness of any type, or I mean even like ADHD or depression or anything like that. I think it's very relatable and very
I really
important.
struggled in school because of the undiagnosed ADHD, and it was not well managed at all. So if anything, when I did start getting help, it was kind of looked at as anxiety or depression, but it was really because my life was just falling apart because I couldn't keep it together. I didn't know good strategies or anything like that. And I think I think a lot of mental illnesses that maybe get triggered in young adulthood, or at least that may be when they start to manifest. I think, if I recall, like schizophrenia is more like around 25, the mid 20s. That's when it starts to manifest. If people do start having that, I don't know. I might be wrong in that, but that's what I'm thinking. So I do think it's the point where,
yeah,
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 these
but
things can
yeah,
show up.
and with brain development, it's like that's a time frame where things will manifest in a way that either it becomes diagnosable or easier to diagnose, but it also kind of amplifies or shifts. And so that's an important time when people can just feel like I'm unhinged and I don't understand myself or I'm going crazy,
Mhm.
and it's just a that can be such a volatile time. It's and that people can do some personally self-destructive things uh, out of like fear, anxiety, frustration, or coping, or all of that. So it's
Yeah.
just important to have
I
help
think
and
it's
support.
a time that we know, like, for young adults to make mistakes and learn and grow, and then I guess you just hope for yourself, and then also those that you know personally and you care about, or maybe it's your kids even, that yeah, that the mistakes they make are ones that you can kind of laugh at later and aren't ones that really do like put your life on a really sad or tragic, trajectory. So
Yeah.
I get it. It is like, yeah, it's an important time of life for sure.
So the movie's almost like The Breakfast Club meets One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, maybe a little more on the Breakfast Club vibe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess sure. That's, you can put
I
it.
I want to know if I'm like, is this it then? Like, Kelby, you've got
Space.
your life, like you've arrived. This is how you want to be living your life. It's the perfect blend of stability, but also creativity, and also, like, I guess having a legacy and passing this on to, the next generation of musicians and artists and producers in this. Or is there, I don't know if there's
Is
ever
there
an
more?
arrive, really. Yeah, because I know, like, it's just sometimes you're at a different point in life, and what was maybe the perfect thing at one point is no longer the perfect thing now, and there's something else to go for. And I personally like the idea of having, new interests or things to go for. So I guess, where are you in all of this? Is this, you're kind of in, I'm in this peak moment where this is really great for me and perfect, or is there a next stage at some point that you're looking forward to now?
Uh, Great question. I don't think that I ever consider myself as having arrived ever,
Hmm.
just by nature. But I can look back on my life and say, oh, hey, I guess this is that milestone where people say I've made it. But once you've lived through that, you're like, I don't feel like I've made it, but I'm not
It's
ungrateful.
normal. Hmm.
It's
Right.
just I
You might
think.
have a bucket list still where you might want to form a David Bowie tribute band.
I was actually asked to do that once with a theater company that unfortunately went under. But the Civic Light Opera, South Bay Civic Light Opera, they were actually a fantastic production company. I did a lot of stuff with them, and there was talk of developing a David Bowie tribute concert that I was entertaining for a little bit, but then they ran into financial struggles, and things got tough for them. Um,
Bad.
but so I just if I could, I would try everything and do everything. And that would be my goal out of curiosity. And when I say try everything, like I don't want to try
I was
getting
gonna
hit by
say,
a
what
bus.
haven't you tried? Like, what is left for for you
Yeah.
in this? I
I,
didn't know what you mean by that.
yeah, when I
He
say that,
hasn't been a best boy yet.
I haven't skydived yet, and I love exciting, thrilling. I love to drive cars. I love driving fast. I love great cars. I love adventurous, just adventure. So I could say maybe skydiving would be on my list or something like that. But like I don't mean when I say try everything. It's not like I don't mean that in the sense that I want to try. Although, I mean, I guess in a way it's kind of like when I go out, I want to go out in a ball of fire or an explosion, you know, because
That's
that's
right. But
just
maybe
that's how I feel. But in reality, maybe I just want to go to sleep and pass,
right.
But
But it's like you want to keep growing. That's how
yeah,
I think.
I don't ever
That's
want
how
to
I'm
stop
saying it.
living. Maybe I'll say it like that. I don't ever want to stop living. I know I will never be able to truly technically try everything and do everything, but I'm gonna try. I'm
As close as
gonna
you can.
live. I'm going to live as long as I can and live life to the fullest as long as I can, and help as many people, I think, as I can, but not as a martyr, not for brownie points in some heaven or something, but just because it's just good. It's good to try and help people, and it feels good, and it's exciting to see their growth and expansion. And I'm going to keep making creative projects. I have film ideas and music ideas and virtual reality and augmented reality ideas. I'm really fortunate at the university to be able to explore those and to develop programs in those areas. And then I also have personal stuff, and I never want to stop singing, performing, acting. I mean, that's just, to me, that's just living in therapy,
No matter what you do, though, it won't be as good as being a podcaster. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I haven't done the podcast gig yet, so it's like
coming soon.
There you go.
Yeah.
I had two questions and they go completely different directions. So maybe maybe we could just pick one, and then I don't know if we can end the show on that note, whichever one you pick. So one is I want to know if your own children are coming up and being interested in your field and your kind of stuff. And actually, no, that wasn't. I wanted to know advice. That's something that maybe if our audience is also wanting to come into this or looking for where to start. I mean, we've got a lot of, I think maybe some little tidbits along the way of how you did things, but so that's one way to go. And then the other was just kind of a more technical about AI and with new things AI is doing. Do you think that that's going to be, a threat to jobs, especially maybe for newcomers where it's the lower kind of skilled work? Is that going to make it harder to get in? So I guess, either AI or what's your advice for the next generation? And I'll let you pick.
What if I do them both? I could do AI real quick.
Okay.
And I'll do the other one semi-quick.
I'm sure our audience will love it.
So AI is exciting. It should not be feared any more than Google as putting an end to the use of libraries. Libraries are not irrelevant. Google has replaced a lot of that out of convenience. And when I say Google, I mean internet searches, right? The power of the internet. So AI, we've been using that for years. And in my field, we've been using that to augment or support things in sound and in editing and in visual production. This is just another tool. It just has grown in a way that is so visible to the public that it seems astounding, and it is genuinely revolutionary. We are hitting a new era, the AI era, but it's one that's been in the works for decades, actually. And if you want to get some interesting stuff on it, look up Kurzweil and look at Kurzweil's goals. Who was also a musician and created keyboards, but as a futurist. So AI is not going to replace. Well, AI will make irrelevant certain types of jobs, but it opens up so many opportunities. That the same thing happened with the industrial line, and workers. When you had the assembly line and robotics coming in to make cars, jobs shifted. Certain jobs became less irrelevant or less relevant. It doesn't mean there will be fewer jobs. It means that the jobs will shift. Just be willing to ride the wave and shift with it, and don't be afraid of it, is what I would say. So it's coming. It's already here. Yeah.
Young people are generally better at that. So if they should be okay.
And I would say to the older generation, AI is going to make your life so much easier to live and easier to connect and to get access and information instead of being left behind. It seems scary, and it seems like AI is going to take over and we're going to be run by robots and the Terminator is going to happen, or something like that. Or
the biggest fear to old people is that they'll be able to be fact checked way too fast.
Yeah. Well, a blessing and a curse, right? It depends on how much of a con artist are you. It might make it harder to con people. So you have that. So then I would say, as far as advice, and I'll just say with the family thing. So my kids, so my oldest is at BYU. He's very active, extremely active as a Mormon. His mom is as well. We are not married. She lives about 6 miles away. We live 6 miles from each other. So my oldest at BYU just got into the animation program, and he is happy as a clam. And he's going in the arts as a 3D character creation, modeling, and animation. I have two girls. Middle child is living with me right now, but she's in college. She's her own person. She and her boyfriend are having a great life. They stay at his place, or there's my place, or she's just, she's exploring herself. She's not in the church, and my youngest is not either. They haven't like formally removed themselves from it, but they're doing their own. They have their own beliefs and their own way of living, and I'm super excited for them. As for my son, it like Mormonism's working for him. That's great.
Yeah.
And my ex as well. Mormonism is working for her. I hope that she can find all the happiness in the world. I truly do, for all of them. And I have a girlfriend who is wonderful, that we live together, and my daughter lives with us. Youngest is living with her mom right now. So that's kind of the family to tie that up. Everyone's doing well, and we all get along. And I would say advice for people is, I think so often people out of fear, excitement, or anticipation will try and figure out whether it's an audition or whether it's something in the arts career. When you're trying to make a life of it, you're trying to guess what they want you to be or what they want from you. And you've got to let that go. And because the only thing you bring to the table that no one else does is your experience, the things that make you unique, your journey in life. Let that come through in your art or in who you are. Don't be afraid of that. Don't try and hide that. That is the difference that makes you unique as an artist and gives you perspective. Even if you're doing a job, even if you are one of 100 editors in television, you bring an eye and an approach and a look to it that is unique. Don't try and hide that and chase what you think other people want to see. Let that come out in your art, and you will set yourself apart, and you will become more employable and more viable because you have something to offer that is fresh or new or different. And so it really is, it's as simple as saying what you have to offer is you. Don't hide that. Let it shine, however you want to interpret that.
Sounds great.
Awesome. I think that's really amazing advice. And I think if there's anyone that's thinking maybe like what if you don't even know what that is? I feel like I understand, and I've gotten to this place in my own, but it wasn't out of knowing what I have to offer or what people would even be interested in me about at all. It just, I guess, got to a point where I just can't, or, couldn't be something that I'm not anymore. And I didn't think I had anything to offer. And so I was just like, well, at least I'm just not going to be pretending anymore. And if people don't like it, they can move on, because this is all I've got. And I just don't have it in me to pretend anymore. And then things have kind of sifted from there. And I have found people who like me or think I have things to offer, and they've articulated that to me in ways that I wasn't aware of or hadn't known. And Kelby, you're one of those people that's really done that for me. And I appreciate a lot, because we can be really blind to ourselves. So yeah, anyways, so I just wanted to say that might be one thing. If you don't know what you have, just, let go of the pretending and just show up whatever way feels most natural to you. And people who see something in you that they value or want, I think they will pull you in, they will find you, and they will tell you, and they'll say, that's who I want, or this is what I want. You don't necessarily have to know what it is yourself. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I would just echo that. I think that's exactly, it's so hard for us to do sometimes because we want that approval, or we just want, it's just like, just tell me what you want. You just need to be fearless and not be afraid to be who you are, because that people don't know that's what they're looking for until you show it to them. That's maybe how I would say it. And if you don't know who you are yet, no one does. You just don't be afraid to hide it and to evolve and to discover. And it's going to be okay. And if people don't like who you are, quote, don't like it, if that's not what they're looking for, then you just did yourself and them a favor by selecting out of working together. Don't be afraid to
Yes.
lose jobs or lose opportunities because of who you are. That's maybe the most important one. And then the second most important is don't be afraid to be who you are, because someone's looking for that. They just don't know it. Maybe, and it might even be you who's looking for that and you don't know it. So just embrace your uniqueness and don't be afraid to let that shine out.
There you go. Like we like to end our shows on scripture. Let your light shine.
There you go. Yeah.
Don't hide it under a bushel, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
you go.
Be like
So
a city on a hill. Yeah.
there you go. Thanks so much, Kelby. You're just awesome. It's been great chatting with you. And there is more podcasting in your future. I feel I'm going to predict that as a prophet, and we'll see what happens. So anyhow, everybody like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. And everybody have a great rest of the summer. Bye-bye.
Thanks, you guys.